for this. And this is going to be my first project. In the box, and I do have an open the box that I received from Heather. She sent all of her design team members a multimedia box. She also included in there a whole bunch of different pages. Some of them are from an opera, some of them are beautiful hymnal type pages, some are almanac pages, Bible pages, little kid book dictionary pages, and then maps. So what I'm going to do is I am going to tear these up, except the Arizona one because that one just absolutely caught me by surprise. If you did see my open the box, you know how funny this struck me. So I'm setting that aside, but I have another map paper, and I'm going to tear this up because what I'm going to actually end up doing is I am going to be making some paper pulp for my box. And I need to make some smaller pieces because what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to be putting this in my food processor and making some paper pulp. So I have to have the pieces fairly small. So I got that tore up, and then I think I will get the book pages and I'm going to tear them up into smaller chunks. And I need something else. So it's going to be the little children's page. And if I need more, I'm going to actually use some of my own book pages because the other papers that I'm saving, I really want to use them in some of my other projects that I'm going to be making as a design team member. Okay, so I've got all of these chunked up now, and now I'm going to take all of this and put it in my food processor, which is in the kitchen, and I'm going to make pulp out of this, and I will record that process also. On this segment here, I'm just going to be doing a quick little voiceover. I'm in the kitchen and I'm using my phone to record this, so I apologize for all the shakiness and for being off frame and out and maybe out of focus. But what I've done here is I've taken those papers that I've torn up and I've put them into a little bowl of water. And I'm just trying to separate everything so that each of the papers has the water exposed to it. It's very important that all of the paper has some kind of water on it before you start this process. Otherwise, you're not going to have a smooth pulp. You don't want a real smooth pulp, but it's not going to grind up properly if you don't do that. So I'm just kind of smushing everything around here and moving the pages around just to make sure that everything gets exposed to the water. And then I bring my blender basket in, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start dropping some of those strips directly into the basket there. You don't actually want to pour the whole thing in because you don't need all that water. You just need a little bit. And so once I have the papers in, I just add a little bit of water. And as you're grinding this up, you're going to see if you need more water or not. And so, you put your basket on your blender base there and just start blending. And like with all types of blending that you do, the stuff on the bottom gets blended, but the stuff on the sides and top don't. So you have to start and stop, start and stop. Well, you have to do the same thing with this. So you're going to see me starting and stopping it, and I take it off of the base. And then I just kind of reach in and grab the stuff that's on the bottom and move it up to the top, and the stuff that's on the top and the side, I try and push down to the bottom. And you just keep doing that over and over and over again until you get it ground up to the consistency and the texture that you want. Now you can get this real fine, or you can leave it pretty chunky. I kind of done like a middle texture with mine because I want it to have a real earthy look to it. And so that's all you do. You just keep grinding and stop and start, and then sometimes you might have to add more water. My paper pulp all made, and what you need to make sure that you do is you need to squeeze all the moisture out of it. And what I do is I just press the paper pulp real tight in the container that I've got it dropped in, and water tends to get release from it, and then you can just pour it off. I don't know if you can see that, but you know, there's water coming out here. So I pretty much did that. I pretty much squeezed it all, as much out as I possibly can. However, if you have a real fine, fine strainer, you can dump your pulp in the strainer and press it in the strainer, and that will help get out a lot of the moisture. Because you want this to now be fairly dry, because if it's too wet, it's just going to take forever to dry, and it possibly could really destroy the surface that you're working on because of, you know, water and paper and everything. So that's why you want it to be as dry as possible. And then what you need to do is you need to mix it with some glue. And I'm just going to use regular Elmer's Craft Bond, white paste, whatever. So I'm just going to dump some glue in another little container. And you just have to guesstimate it. You want it to be fairly sticky with glue because you want it to hold together. And then I'm just going to use a palette knife and just start mixing everything together. I'll do this by chunks. And I did a pretty good job of squeezing the water out because it's kind of hard. And then you just start mixing it together with the glue. And then you can tell if you need, you know, to add more glue. And you want to blend it as much as possible with the glue. And I'll add some more, and I'm eventually going to put all of this in there, and I'm probably definitely going to have to add some more glue. Just mix it all up. Just keep stirring and stirring till you get it all nice and gluey. And I'm going to add some more. Another nice big squeeze. And then add some more of the pulp. Try to add the rest of it. Okay, so I got that all added in there. And I'm just going to stir everything together. Get this all coated real good. And this is, you know, similar to how you would do paper mache. Usually paper mache is done in strips. You're just making your own pulp. And there's tons of recipes out there on YouTube about doing this, but this is how I've always done it. You might have one that you prefer better. The nice thing about the bond, and it doesn't matter at this stage, but you know, craft glue usually dries clear. If yours doesn't, it dries white. That's okay, it doesn't matter, because guess what? We're going to be painting over this once we get this all done. So it really doesn't matter. Okay, I think that's blended pretty good. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now I'm just going to be applying it to the lid of my alterable item here. And I'm just going to use my fingers. Just going to smush it down there and put it however I want it on here. It's going to be so cute. Actually, what I'm building land. And I'm just smushing it down, making all sorts of different nooks and crannies and hills and valleys and stuff. I don't want to go over the edge though. But if I do, I can come back and I can trim this later. It's no big deal. And if you want to, you can actually you know, put a layer of glue down first before you actually apply all this. But I think I have a substantial amount of glue in here that it's going to stick okay. And I'm just trying to smooth the edges. And I didn't have to add any of my own book paper. I was able to use the papers from the kit. And I'm going to go as close to the edge as possible, but I don't really want to go over. So anything that goes over, I'm just going to kind of push it back a little bit. And I'm just smoothing it down with my fingers, and you can see I'm staying away from the actual far edge. Making it smooth here. And I'm actually going to use it all. Put it all on here. Okay, and then what I have to do is I'm just going to have to set this aside and wait for it to dry. And it's a good idea to actually let this dry overnight. It's like any kind of paper mache item because it's newspaper and other papers that it needs to dry completely through. Is that cool or what? What a great texture. You see that texture? Isn't that gorgeous? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to let it dry. I just want to explain what I've done here. I wanted to do the edge here of the box, to color it green because I'm going to putting grass on it. And so I just used my Copic markers and I just went around the edges with a couple different shades of green. And then I just used one of the markers and just kind of like drew some fake grass on it. And then I darkened the hole here. And when I do my Cricut cuts, I generally do them on white paper, and then I just get out my Copics and I color them rather than trying to do all sorts of different colored papers for all the cutouts and everything. It's just easier for me to do it all on one page, and then I just color them up the way I want them colored up. So that's what I did with these grass samples here, is I just colored them up with my Copics. And what I'm going to do now, since I've got the background green, is I'm going to add my little grass cuttings to the box here. I was going to glue these in place. So I'm just going to run a bead of the glue down here on the bottom. And that'll hold it in place. And then that way too, I can pull some of the actual blades out so it looks like it's grass. So I'm just going to stick this down. And when I get to the end here, I'll wrap around good. Put some glue on that heart. That's good. I like the way that looks. And then come over on this side here and glue this down. And then I'll do the same thing here. Run the bead of glue down here. Put my grass in. Fit that in there tightly. And then I'm going to go over here and overlap it just a little bit. And sometimes you need to overlap enough so it'll stay in place when you go around a corner. So that's what I'm going to do. And then just cut it off. And nice thing about the craft glue is it will dry clear. Look how cute that looks. Isn't that adorable? And then the part where it's going to, the top will be in its way, I'm just going to just kind of fold these little tips forward and see what it looks like. Isn't that cute? And do the same thing over here. I don't want them to go in. I want the little tips to come forward. And then we got little blades of grass growing around the, and pull them forward. They'll kind of come up over the edge. With a little curve to them. Look how cute that looks. And then eventually what else I'm going to do is I'm going to put on this lip right here, I'm going to put some grass like that too. So it'll look three-dimensional. You have grass in front and grass in behind. Won't that look cute? But I'm not going to do that to the very end because I've got a lot of work I have to do in this little box. Oh, I love the way that looks. How cute. Okay, I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. I've sped up the frames here because nobody wants to watch somebody paint. And all I did was just put several different colors of green on my craft mat with some brown and some yellow. So I'm blending and dabbing, trying to get an earthy kind of a color going here. And I actually put a little copper on it, which I thought that'd be kind of cool and give it a nice little, like maybe rocks glistening in the sun or something. And so I need to paint the inside of the box and then I'll be painting the bottom of it. And then I'll be done with the earth kind of a look to the box.